Welcome to the Own My Life podcast. I'm Abi Thomas, and it is a joy to be with you as we meet amazing women who've all been through the Own My Life course, a 12-week course which enables women who've been subjected to abuse to regain ownership of their lives. Joy is a key value for us here at Own My Life, so be aware you will hear painful stories of many types of abuse, but you will also hear a lot of joy. You may realise as you listen that you or someone you know needs help or support to get safe. The National Domestic Abuse Helpline is 0808 2000 247, and if you have concerns that a man is behaving in an unsafe way to a partner, you could contact the Respect Perpetrator phone line, and all these details are in the show notes. So welcome back, Natalie, to the Own My Life podcast, episode 3. Not just Natalie, but also Preston. Welcome, Preston.
Hello, Preston Princess. Yes, you got your tail wagging for us all.
What a beautiful dog. What sort of dog is Preston, Natalie?
She is a schnoodle.
She's very schnoodly. She makes you want to smoosh her face, as we say in my family.
Yes.
How are you, Natalie?
I am wonderful, thank you.
You've had a Greg's fish finger sandwich. Should we declare that?
Absolutely. I don't know other fish finger sandwiches are available.
So, CEO of Own My Life, I just feel we should give you your official title. Creator of the Own My Life course, Natalie, all-round superhero. In the course, in the Own My Life course, which is a 12-week course for women, at the beginning of every, I always want to say episode because I'm a podcast maker, but at the beginning of every
session,
thank you, at the beginning of every session, we ask a question, which is to give women a choice to help people to enjoy the choice and new freedom that they have in making their own choices. So I'm going to ask you about one of your favourite things. So today's question is, what is your favourite season?
My absolute favourite season is autumn. And I love autumn for lots of reasons. I love the changes in the colours. I love it all. But one of the things I love so much about autumn is when it's a beautiful day and you don't need to take your coat and it's sun shining, you feel grateful. You're like, oh, isn't it a lovely day? Whereas in summer, when it's a lovely day, you're like, yeah, well, it should be. It's summer. And you get this kind of sense of like, of course it should be. You're like enraged when it's not a nice day. And one of the core things that we do in My Life is we talk, alongside what our favourite is each session, we also talk about something that we're grateful for, because when we are dealing with all the stuff that goes with having an abusive partner or ex and all the failures that often we experience from other services, and it's incredibly difficult, it can be hard to find things to be grateful for, because usually the things we're grateful for are not very remarkable, are usually the tiny things that are easy to not notice. And so we want to create an opportunity to pay attention to them. And so autumn is my favourite season because I feel like it's a season where we are inevitably more grateful, and gratitude is a way of really enabling us to get to our best lives, for sure.
Excellent. I mean, I'm hearing that Preston is feeling a great deal of gratitude for her sofa.
Yeah, you're hearing it. She likes scratching. She's got lots of like doggy noises going on in the background. So hopefully that makes sense of whatever people are like, what is going on over there?
I love it. So we're going to hear from Clara today of her really important story she's very kindly shared with us. Clara, welcome to the Own My Life podcast. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
What are the things that bring you joy at the moment, Clara? Tell me about the happy things in your life.
Well, I suppose freedom. I really like having my space and no one just giving me bad vibes. I like being creative. I make my decisions. No one makes me second guess myself. So I have that self-confidence, that freedom to be me, and unapologetically me.
So you've completed the Own My Life course. What started your journey of accepting you'd been subjected to abuse?
So I first realised or started suspecting abuse maybe 8 years inside the relationship. I always seen from the very first moment that some things were a bit off, But, you know, there is a cycle there. You get like miserable, grumpy person, and then you get a really nice person that you connect with to, you know, a really deep level, or so you think. I think the fact that I didn't have a positive role model of a relationship, a romantic relationship, didn't help me. People are selling how perfect the lives are, even if it's not. So, you know, you miss on a lot of red flags. They are there, you just don't know how to interpret them. And so I thought, well, this is part of any relationship. Relationships are not perfect. And I must compromise. Well, you think like both of you are compromising, but then you realize that, well, really only one person is compromising. And I remember like throughout my relationship, I felt very deeply in love on the times that he was nice. But thinking back, he was probably just mediocre, to be honest. But when you compare with the bad times, then obviously the nice times are really nice. I guess for a while I thought this is something we can work on, because, you know, obviously they blame it on their work, they blame it on their mental health, their childhood, whatever it is. So you think then if I'm supportive, I can get the nice part of him just all the time. Obviously, time goes past. You try even counseling. Nothing really works. You have to let the time play its course to realize that none of the things that he blamed it on, his behavior, are really the causes. So at that point, I realized that, well, I need to decide whether, you know, the good times are worth the bad times. I don't think I'm ever going to get just one version of him. Funnily enough, I did, but it was a bad one. When he stopped indulging in the nice side of him, it was just bad. And, you know, no one wants to live through all the bad stuff. I didn't know what abuse was. I just knew that this wasn't right. And I don't know why, like 8 years down the line, I still knew nothing about abuse. I thought abuse was physical. I've never heard the term coercive control. So I actually came across with Women's Aid's website, and they had like a questionnaire. It didn't feel like black or white, it felt like grey to me, the answers. So I got in touch with them, they called me, we discussed, and they said, oh, he's really abusive. And I thought, well, maybe I didn't see the nice things of him, you know, it feels like one-sided then. So it took me 1 year from suspecting it to accepting it. And then it took me 1 year from accepting it to leaving.
And what were the things that you said to Women's Aid that they said, these are very abusive behaviours?
Probably not everything that was happening, to be honest. I kind of realised a lot more of the behaviours when I did the Own My Life course, and when I got the therapy that Women's Aid was providing right after I left. Insults, I think, are you know, you're so fucking stupid, you can't follow simple instructions, and I hate you, you're a fucking cunt. You know, all these things is like, why do we need to add fucking to every single thing that you say? You know, without it, it already conveys the message. He was putting rules for me that he wasn't doing for him, you know. I guess gaslighting me. He was telling me that things were happening that weren't happening. He was grumpy with the people that were close to me. He was miserable. So I felt bad taking him. Thankfully, I never stopped my contact with these people, but that's exactly what he was trying, probably, to isolate me. But that never happened, and my family and my friends were always close to me. So I really thank them for that, and for me as well, you know, because I didn't let him take, you know, the most important things in my life from me. But he was asking me to move away with him to Australia, really far away from my family, leave my job, be a stay-at-home wife. And there was also the aggression of, I don't know, suddenly he just changed his mind. He was angry. He'll turn around the car and take me back home for no reason. It doesn't seem like a lot when you talk about it, but it's actually huge when this is all you live every day. It's the walking on eggshells. He goes around, and you know, this doesn't have to be abuse. It happens in many couples. It's just how he reacted to that. He'll just leave whatever he uses on the floor. You could see like socks and underwear and glasses and letters everywhere. He never ties us up, so I have to do it. I sometimes left things for a while to see if he would, take the hint. But no, it had to be me. And, I complain and I say, can you just please, tidy after yourself? Just rolls his eyes. And this is a lot of the things that he did. He rolls his eyes, or just get a grip of yourself. I hate that sentence because it came so many times. Minimized everything that I was feeling. But then, for example, he came with his rules. For example, I wasn't allowed to crack eggs in the counter edge because he said it'll break it. I mean, being an engineer himself, he should know that, the counters are quite solid. If an egg is going to crack a counter edge, then, that's a big problem in design. I couldn't use the toaster, I had to bring it towards the edge of the counter because otherwise the heat was burning the underneath of the cabinet on top of it. It's just nonsense. But I thought from my side, it's a really small thing. If this is what compromise is about, it's not going to change my life doing it. But then I see he's not doing the things that I'm asking, so the compromise doesn't meet halfway. So, for example, I stop doing what he's telling me, and then he confronts me and he blocks my exit from the room or the house, and he gets really close to me. Obviously, he's bigger than me, and I mean, who wants someone right on your face? You can actually feel the spits when he talks. It feels very confrontational and, dangerous, really. You feel like you're...
Scary.
Yeah, you're in danger. And he will say, I won't let you go until you promise me that you're not going to do it again. And I say, well, you don't listen to me when I ask you to do things. And it's like, but why shouldn't you do what I say just because I don't do what you say? There was a cabinet under the stairs. If I needed to get something from there, I had to ask him to do it for me. But you ask him and he doesn't do it because he's that bloody lazy, just lying in his underwear, just as a starfish in the sofa. And so you say, well, I'll do it. It's my house as well, isn't it? So he gets angry because he says, you're never careful with what you do. You break things. And then I think it's when have I broken something? Never. It's actually the other way around. And that's the other thing, that they gaslight you and they describe you in the way that they are rather than the way that you are. So he goes in to break things, throws things around, breaks holes in the walls. I mean, we had so many holes in the walls from him just throwing things about out in anger. I knew it was abuse at that point. I had spoken to him and said, and I told him, this is abuse. And I got in a couples counsellor. It felt really awkward every time because it was online. I mean, she was online, and then when she hung up, it was me and him. It was really awkward, but thankfully it was never dangerous. And I felt that whenever I confronted him, he would back down a bit. I think he feels very entitled and so, but I have a strong character as well. And I think he's a little bit scared sometimes about me when I actually stand for myself. He kind of takes a step back. I told him this is abuse, and he said, well, maybe, but you basically press all my buttons, and if I don't react, then you escalate it until you get a reaction from me. So he is not taking any responsibility, or he is kind of saying, well, it's my work, it's so stressful. Yeah, I do have a job as well, and it's stressful. It's because, I think I'm autistic. Well, I'm neurodivergent as well. I'm nothing like you, and I know many neurodivergent people that are not like you. It's because I think I'm depressed. Well, thanks to you, I think I am too. And I'm not doing these things. Childhood trauma, abuse from his parents. Yeah, I experienced that too, Still, I'm not being abusive. I'm not behaving the way you are. So he says, when I left him for good, the last time, I've never seen him cry in his life. I don't know how he managed that, but obviously it wasn't coming from a place of remorse or regret or anything like this. So all these things, they show regret, remorse, that they're going to change. And I'm telling now the listeners, it will never happen. They will never change.
The cycle begins again.
Exactly. So they promise things and then you check up on them. And then suddenly it was ignoring me blankly, sitting at his desk, rolling his eyes at me. And then I realized he was not serious about it. And then the time that I left is because, it was a full day of abuse, but he threw something at me, not to hit me, but it just hit really close to me. And I realized that, like throughout the relationship, I always felt like, I had a boundary in place, and I kept moving it every time he crossed it. So I was a bit upset with myself, thinking, are you ever going to make the decision? And I guess at that point, I made the decision, and I was really proud that, yes, I do have my boundaries, and I now realize how difficult it was to first identify the abuse and secondly, do something about it. But I'm really happy that I took the difficult but rewarding path of leaving him. Just as soon as I left him, I realized the effect it had to my self-confidence that I've been picking up with time. And, I'm really happy now. When I left, it was really, really hard. But it was totally worth it. And as hard as it is, I found hope and peace and everything I could ever hope for in life after abuse.
And the other thing I've heard from your story is a lot of resistance, and that's something that in Own My Life, the course, really teaches you to honour resistance. How do you feel about that idea of resistance? You clearly told me in your story how you would stand up to him, and obviously that can be a very dangerous and scary thing to do.
One of the things that I learned from Own My Life, the response to a threat is not something that you can control. You have the flight, you have the fight, you've got a flop, and there is many others. I think there's 5 or 6.
It's fight, flight, freeze, flop, and friend.
But it's not something that you can choose. I'm probably drawn to the fight one. And I remember once my dad hid somewhere to give me a fright, and I came out, and the first thing that I did was slap his face right from one side to the next. And he was in shock, and I was laughing because I didn't do it on purpose. It was just, my reaction.
Your adrenaline response, yeah.
Yeah, so I know that many times I did fight. There is some times where I just hid away. It's not really something that you can control, but I know he came once to me. He kept telling me that he didn't want me to do for food to be consumed in the car. And I kept doing it because, I didn't agree with him. When I came back home, he just rushed down the stairs, met me at the door at the kitchen, and he got close to me, really aggressive, and he said, I want you to stop consuming food in the car. And I said, well, no. I don't agree with that, so no. And he said, well, I asked you nicely, so you must do as I say. And I said, no. And this is the thing, I was really calm. Even though if I didn't feel it inside, it was the adrenaline, And I said, no, I don't agree with you, so I don't have to do like you say. So he basically came and got his hand in my face, not touching it, but few millimeters away from it, as if he was going to hit me. And I just stood there. I didn't cry. I didn't show myself. I just show myself strong as I am not moving a fucking inch from here. I'm my own person. I'm an adult. No one is going to treat me like that. He wants to hit me, then go for it, and we will see what happens after that. So he saw I wasn't backing, and then he ran away saying, I fucking hate you. You fucking can't. It's fine. He comes and tells me threatening well, I'm going to leave you. And it's fine. When are you leaving? So little things like that. Yeah, I guess there is many examples. No one wants to be told what to do.
I think, there's something about this sort of question that often people say, why doesn't she just leave? It sort of assumes a passivity with women, but all these stories of resistance are just, just so wonderful that even within the context of those rules and that fear, you were able to still own your own choices and be very strong. And I think that's something we really look to honour, that the course really helps women to honour that.
Oh, definitely. For me, it was really important, to understand why didn't I leave? Why the abuse took place? Why? There were so many whys. So I don't think I could have, picked up my pieces if I didn't have answers to that. And that came through the Own My Life course.
So how would you answer that question now if somebody came up to you, why didn't you just leave?
Society is the first one, right? Society teaches you that this is how women are treated in relationships. This is what love is. The second thing, because there is a lot of ignorance around abuse, when you start seeing things that are strange, you usually see those things behind doors. You don't see them outside. People see different things. They gaslight you, so they make you think it's your problem. And because you're a nice person, you would never think that someone is trying to torture you, that someone is trying to dominate you and to break everything that makes you you. There is the traumatic attachment as well. When I was with him, I was pregnant and I had a miscarriage. I was already thinking of leaving him. But when this happened, I just turned to him. He was the only person there, so I turned to him, and suddenly it was all about hugs and, tears, and just needing to feel supported, and he was the only person. So traumatic attachment is a huge thing. It wasn't as huge to me as it was to another person who's been completely isolated. But then just to see that, I have struggled to find friends at some periods of time because I wasn't born here. So I don't have family and friends from my whole life. So there has been times where, even though it's easy for me and I will just go out and make friends, there is periods of time when you don't, and you can see that you depend a lot on that person. So I can imagine that someone who's been isolated from everyone will really struggle that. So unfortunately, you can't rely on legal systems to protect you. You have a lot of things in common, probably, if you've been with this person for a while. You can have property, you can have children, you can have so many things. You could, or you could not have some of the things like jobs or support network. So the abuse does not just finish when you leave them. It continues for a lot longer. You need to be really strong to take that path. It was my family, my friends, it was women's aid was huge for me and all my life. If I hadn't had those things, even if I knew it was abuse, even if I knew that it was wrong, even if I wanted to leave, I don't think it would have been easy for me to leave. I mean, probably I would still be stuck there.
You grew up in a different culture to the man who abused you. How do you think that affected your situation?
So that affected in two ways. One, we were in his country. He knew more about this place than I did. Not now, to be honest, because I'm very resourceful and I did everything and he did nothing. When we got married, he told me, now everything that you own is mine. Well, I had a home back in my country. He told me the separation of goods doesn't exist in this country. And I believed him. I didn't have any reason to not believe him. Obviously, many years down the line, I was really worried about this because I'm divorcing him. And the first thing my solicitor said, oh, he's full of bullshit. He's whatever was yours before the marriage is yours. It's not him. He can't touch it. And he tried to touch it. And, well, obviously my solicitor just nicely told him he's full of bullshit, and that's it.
You had a good solicitor.
Oh, she was amazing. And what a difference it made. Because I had a job and I had financial resources, I could pay a solicitor.
Tell me about your mum.
Oh, my mum. She's amazing. Sometimes a bit annoying, but but that's just life. I'm pretty sure other people think that about me.
I doubt it. Well, I don't know. We all have our traits that are irritating.
As I said, my dad was abusive. And I realized that through the Own My Life course, through my own experience. We didn't know that before. But my mum's been walking this journey that I am walking. It's my own journey, but she is beside me and she's realizing things off her own journey now. So she's learning with me.
Did she help you?
So she did something that most people wouldn't be able to do. Which is listen to me when the abuse was happening and just accepting that I wasn't ready to leave. I said a few times that I was leaving and she was really happy about it. She was supportive, that then he'd manipulate me back into the relationship. And then my mom wouldn't hold it against me. She was just patiently just accepting my decision. When I left, she confided in me that she sought counselling for herself because it was hard for her to watch this and not being able to do anything about it. So the day that I left, she was so supportive, as I said, financially. My mom and my stepdad, they helped me. I mean, we are like a big pack. Like even my sibling is, I am so lucky to have this sibling. We have this community. So I knew that it was never him against me. It was him against all of us, you know, and that make a huge difference. Not everyone is as lucky as I am, I think. You know that when you leave, it's the most dangerous time. I had to accept that potentially this is the time that I die or the people that I love die because of this. And I had to accept it, and it was the hardest thing that I ever did. But once I came to terms with the fact that I couldn't control what he did, it was a lot easier for me to move on. Like since then, I've got my self-confidence back. I put the toaster wherever the hell I want. I can be as silly as I want. I can just make whatever decision I make. So I'm a very creative person, and I guess I'm taking the opportunity to create a platform where people like me and like, you know, real people can get together and listen to other people's journeys through their lives. It could be mental health, it could be neurodivergence, it could be domestic abuse, it could be so many things. I love writing. This is one of the things that I did when I was with him in my spare time, but that he never really supported, like in words, yes, but he made me feel like, you know, I'm not that good at it. Turns out I'm really good at it. Not that no one's told me yet, but, you know I am. And that's the thing about, you know, leaving, that you can just love yourself without feeling that you're not enough. You're always enough.
And would you recommend that people do the Own My Life course?
Oh, definitely, yes. For me, understanding was key. I couldn't have compassion for myself without understanding why he did this, why I did that, why I didn't do this. I now understand a lot of things for myself, to be able to move on with my life, you know, fall in love with myself again, you know, and also to understand that, you know, it was tough, and it wasn't my fault. I would highly recommend it to anyone. I mean, no hesitation, is the best thing that you will do in your life.
Clara, thank you so much for sharing your story with us here at Own My Life.
You're welcome.
I loved listening to Clara sharing about Own My Life and her story. Beautiful.
She's amazing, isn't she? All the women we've spoken to are just so amazing and in their different ways and very different stories. So Monty, whose story we heard last week, had a very different experience where when she left her abusive partner, she did lose everything, absolutely everything. Clara perhaps gives us a bit of a different perspective on how that threat might not always be true. You know, your partner might tell you, well, if you leave me, you've got nothing. But actually having a good lawyer and some good support can make all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that sense of we have to be really brave and really courageous to say, well, we can't count on that when he says it, it's an empty threat and it's not real. We have to go through, like Clara said, you know, I just had to accept that I couldn't control what he was going to do, that he might kill me, might kill my family. And through the various resources that she had access to, that wasn't the outcome for her. But the reality is that we always have to push through the absolute reality that it could be. And that's really terrifying and just shows how badass women are in recovering from and escaping abusers.
Tell me about the idea of rules. That's something that we haven't talked about in any previous episode, but it's something that's quite key on the course.
Yeah, so we introduced the cycle of abuse in session 4, and the cycle talks through how somebody who's abusive behaves, that it starts with those beliefs of ownership and entitlement that we've already established. That's what the abuser believes, and Clara talks about that in her story, that he believed he was entitled, that he had this sense of ownership, that he has the rights and she has no rights. And so it starts with ownership and entitlement. And that ownership and entitlement informs the abuser's sense that he can dictate the rules. He can state exactly what has to be so in this relationship, in this family, in this house. And so Clara gives the example of the toaster. You have to use a toaster how I say. You mustn't have food in the car. Other people, it might be you're not allowed to speak to your mum. You have to wash before sex. You mustn't wear these sort of clothes. You mustn't make eye contact. Whatever it is, you must clean in this way, whatever those things are. And then when those rules are broken, because inevitably they will be broken because they're completely irrational and unreasonable, when those rules are broken, and they might be broken on purpose, because actually we go, fuck you, I'm doing what I want, or they might be broken by accident. Maybe one of the kids has to go to the hospital, so we can't do what it is that we have had demanded of us. Or we might break them because he changes the rules. So on Tuesday, he says the toaster has to be used this way, and on Wednesday, we're using the toaster like that, and he's like, no, I've never said that. And suddenly he's gaslighting us about what he even said. And so that's partly about messing with our head in the middle of all of that. So the rules are broken, and then his beliefs of ownership and entitlement become threatened because we're not doing what he demands that we do. His sense of, she's my possession, she does as she's told because I have rights and she doesn't. And so those breaking of the rules or the changing of the rules instigates this sense of, how dare she? Who does she think she is? I love her and this is how she treats me. And this sense of entitlement means that he's affronted by that breaking of the rules. And as a result of that, he'll often go through this kind of stage of winding himself up, of what I describe as pseudo anger, this sense that he produces this sense of outrage of who does she think she is, and
what
out
he sees
of that,
as a sort of righteous anger.
Yeah, he sees it as righteous, but it's completely unreasonable because nobody has the right to expect rules of a partner. We should be in an equal relationship, right? And so as a result of that, he will then punish his partner, and that might be physical violence, it might be the silent treatment for days, weeks or months, it might be cheating on her, it might be pricking holes in condoms, it might be implicating her in illegal activity or getting her into debt. So it might be about smashing stuff or telling people her like private information, all sorts of things, but basically something which indicates she's done something wrong, that it's a punishment, it's a form of punishment. And then after that punishment, he will then avoid taking any responsibility. He'll minimise it. I never even did anything. He denies it. It was just a little push. I only broke like one of your legs, or, just absolutely ridiculously horrendous. And then he will become the nice one, as we call it in the Biderman. He'll become this kind of, I love you and I'm going to change and things are going to be different. And then over time, there's a re-establishing of those rules. Look, I've been really nice, but if we want to make this relationship work, you really need to stop seeing your sister. And suddenly we're back to reinforcing those rules. And as Clara says, that sense of compromise. So initially when we go through that cycle, we're like, right, well, relationships require compromise. Okay, so he said sorry, I understand. And to be fair, he's got this bad childhood, he's got these other issues, therefore. And so those rules, and anybody who's been abused will be able to, if they're honest, say, these were what the rules were in my situation. Because actually, even if we don't realise, even if he's not explicit about what those rules are, what will happen is we will get punished. And then when we look back and think, why, what actually instigated that? And we'll realise, hang on a second, I had a phone call with my sister, or hang on a second, I didn't get back on time, or whatever it is. And we'll be able to trace back. And that's why we know that this is about control, because it links to a sense of punishing us.
I know that when I trained to be a facilitator on the course, which I loved the training and would highly recommend, we touched on relationship counselling. Talk to me a bit about your views on relationship counselling as someone who's been involved in this sector for how many years did you say you've been working?
Over 15.
15 years working in violence against women.
So, so for people who want to know about the training itself, it's a 5-day training online that we deliver. And so as part of that, we train practitioners and others to be able to deliver the course with women. And that's how all the women who are on this podcast and the other 19,000 and something who've done an Own My Life course have accessed it through a place where somebody has trained with us to deliver the course. And so when we do that training, one of the things that we're really clear about is that while people can describe their circumstances and situation in whatever language makes most sense for them, we as practitioners and as those responding to abuse should always avoid talking about it as an abusive relationship, because it is not an abusive relationship. It's an abusive person who is in a relationship. And when we infer that the relationship is the problem, what we do is we infer that relationship solutions will help, for which one is counselling. So marriage counselling, relationship counselling, conflict resolution. A lot of the books about relationship advice will be incredibly dangerous if there's an abuser in the mix. And so it's not a relationship issue, it's an abuser issue. What couple counselling does is it assumes both parties have equal responsibility for the problems and that both parties have equal power to resolve the problems, which is an absolutely reasonable assumption to make in a relationship where there's nobody being abusive. It is absolutely inaccurate to the situation where somebody's got an abusive partner. So the only person who can change this is the abuser. The only person with the power is the abuser. And so relationship counselling, there's 3 incredibly serious risks. The first is that the abuser will manipulate the counsellor into colluding with him in a way which props up and potentially escalates his abuse of his partner. So he will justify, well, the counsellor's on my side. And because of our wider coding up of male and female norms, if a man cries in counselling, it's often seen as much more serious and he's having, he's expressing his feelings and showing vulnerability. And if a woman cries in counselling, often that's coded up as, well, maybe she's on a period, or, maybe she's being manipulative, or maybe she's whatever, or it's not taken as seriously because of our male and female norms. And that's not okay. But it means that he potentially can really, really seriously manipulate that counsellor in a way that could lead to her being further abused. The second thing is that if the counsellor is skilled enough to get her to open up and talk about what is going on, well, inevitably she's going to have broken a rule there, because the abuser's rule will always be, you never tell anybody what goes on. You don't tell anyone. You only say good things about me. And so if the woman does open up in that counselling setting, it's possible that he's going to really punish her for doing that in a way that's very, very problematic. So those are the first 2. And then the third is that throughout that counselling, she is going to have it reinforced that she's the problem. And so potentially it's not going to give her the skills. Like Clara said, and like the other women on the podcast have said, they thought it was all their fault. And traditional couple counselling, while incredibly valuable for lots of challenges that couples face, actually all couples therapy should be screening out anybody where abuse is going on. But actually, surprisingly, lots of people would assume counsellors are very skilled at abuse. It is not really a strong part of most counselling training or kind of professional development. And so very often counsellors aren't overly skilled at navigating this, screening it out, or responding well.
Yeah, I think the other thing about Clara's story that stuck out to me was she said this sentence. She said it was 1 year from suspecting to accepting, and then 1 year after accepting to leaving. And I wonder whether you find that's common, and perhaps for people who are looking at relationships on the outside, where someone's with an abusive partner and they can see that it's an abusive partner, how it is to watch on as someone comes to their own decision to leave, and what are the best things that people can do when they're trying to support somebody who's recognised that their partner is abusive but they haven't yet left.
Yeah, there are so many aspects to the situation where somebody's got an abusive partner. That abusive partner has all sorts of tactics and methods of controlling, of isolating, of making it impossible for his partner to leave, that of course it's going to take longer than any of us would like. It's not going to happen quickly. And so, as Clara makes really clear, the way that her mum supported her was by persevering, by being present, by accepting every time she said, okay, I'm going back, and not saying, don't do that, and shaking her like her mum wanted to. And you know, like, the incredible thing about her mum, going and getting her own counselling, so she had a place to put all her feelings and frustrations, so she could be the best resource possible for her daughter. If anybody wants a gold standard of how do you support somebody who has an abusive partner, Clara's mum definitely needs the certificate for that. That sense of being present, being supportive, not talking about the abuser and saying how awful he is, just being present for her. And that sense of persevering, that year where Clara was suspecting there's a problem, it would have been really easy for her mum to try and rush her through that process, to be like, right, great, we're there now. And what I often say to people who are supporting a family member or friend or colleague or whoever it is that they're supporting, your support needs to be sustainable. So if they leave in the next day, the next week, the next year, or the next 10 years, are you supporting this person in a way that you can sustain? Because actually, if you are reacting in a way that is not sustainable, you're kind of getting, the intensity is not going to be able to be sustained, and then you're going to walk away because you're going to get frustrated. We don't know how long it's going to take this person, so you need to be acting in a way of, actually, if you, whatever you say about him, you're not going to be able to take back. So if she goes back to him, you better be sure that you have been speaking about him in a way that means that she can still be in contact with you. And that's not to say we don't challenge the behaviour, but I normally talk about challenging the intentions rather than the behaviour. So, you know, if somebody is like, do you know what? Like, for some reason, he just changed all the clocks in the house, so I was really late for work. And we can ask the question, like, I'm not saying he did do it on purpose, but what would it mean if he had done it on purpose? I'm not saying he's deliberately doing this, but would it make any difference to you if he was? So we can plant seeds, we can be curious, we can offer an alternative perspective than maybe the one she is giving about him. But we have to be very careful not to malign him in a way which means that if he manipulates her back, we're going to be one of the casualties of that latest manipulation.
Clara said it was really important for her to understand why she didn't leave as well. And I think one of the golden threads that runs through Oh My Life is it's not your fault. And how I wonder how it makes you feel to hear Clara say, without Oh My Life, I might still be stuck in that relationship. I mean, what must that feel like as the person who's written and produced this course?
I feel it blows my mind, really. I feel incredibly overwhelmed about it. And also, in some ways, I don't think My Life belongs to me. I did create it, but it comes with the wisdom of lots and lots of women who've been around a long time before I was. Lots of people who, what In My Life does is it brings together lots of knowledge and wisdom and ideas, and it puts them in a way that makes them really easily accessible. And so I don't claim credit for all of it, and I kind of feel like it's a gift I was given that I have to kind of give to the world rather than something that belongs to me. And for sure, the more women who do Own My Life and the more women that train, every single one of them, because it belongs to them too. So I don't ever feel like it's really mine. I feel like it's something that belongs to all of us. And the reality is, Clara turned up at the course, Clara did the learning, and Clara's the one that got Clara's life back. It's Clara that is the person who made Clara's life amazing. And that's really beautiful. So I sometimes talk about Own My Life being a bit like if a woman is in her bedroom and everything is everywhere. It is a mess. All the clothes, there's no storage. Just everything she owns is just piled up. When my kids were teenagers, one of them still is, but when they were younger and they'd have mess all over their floor, and I'd be like, are you going to put it away in the wardrobe? And they're like, Mum, it's a floordrobe. It's on the floordrobe. Like this, so you can imagine, can't you, this absolute mess of a bedroom. And that's a bit like what happens when we've had an abusive partner. It's just a complete mess and we can't kind of make any sense of it. We can't understand it. It's just, and we don't know where to start. And Own My Life is a bit like a wardrobe and a set of coat hangers. And when somebody goes on an Own My Life course, that facilitator is like the woman who comes into this bedroom and goes, oh, I think these socks go together and they need to go in this drawer here. And I think this needs to be hung up and it goes in that, well, let's put it there in the wardrobe. And eventually everything is organised. The woman can think and can see where everything goes. And essentially, Own My Life is a wardrobe, a set of coat hangers, and a nice set of drawers. And so when that process has been through, nobody goes, oh, I'm really grateful for the woman who made that wardrobe and those coat hangers and those drawers. They're really grateful to the person who helped them work out where to put them. But most of the credit goes to them for doing that journey. And so I suppose for me, Own My Life is furniture and hangers, but the thing that really matters is the women who accompany women to make sense of it and hang it up.
You're making me feel quite emotional. It's wonderful. It's been a joy, Natalie, of course, to sit with you for this special episode with Clara, and we will be back with another episode. We're going to hear from the wonderful Lorna next time. Thank you so much for joining us for the Own My Life podcast. We want to say a huge thank you to all the organisations that run Own My Life in the UK and Ireland for everything you are doing to make women's lives better. And finally, to the Community Foundation North East, who have funded this podcast. We are so grateful.